fanfictions are better than others. It's just a fact of life, but everyone has their own opinion of what makes a really good fanfiction. So, here are my top 5 favourite types of fanfic. Now, you might be thinking, Claudia, what do you mean by types of fanfiction? And when I'm saying that, I have 2 things that I mean. Number 1, the trope that the fanfiction is based around, and number 2, the AU that the fanfiction is based around. You can have both, but most of the time it's either one or the other. A trope is something used in a book or fanfiction to move the plot along. It's not just restricted to fanfics, it's also used in actual books. Not that fanfictions aren't books, but published books. An example of a trope is the one bed trope, where 2 characters have to stay somewhere and there's only one bed for them to share and they have to share it. That is a very common trope in fanfiction. Whereas an AU stands for alternate universe. This basically means taking the characters out of the canon universe they're in and putting them in some other universe. So these are my top 5 favourite types of fanfiction. Some of them are tropes, some of them are AUs. I couldn't rank them if I tried, so these aren't in any kind of order, they're just my top 5. Number 1, coffee shop AU. She may be basic, but that doesn't mean we don't love her. If you don't know, a coffee shop AU is basically what it says on the tin: 2 characters meeting in a coffee shop. Usually one of them works there and one of them is a customer, but you can also have other situations where they both work there or they're both customers. Most of the time, unless it's the 2 worker situation, they only see each other once a day, and you can get some really good opportunities to some very cute fluff in there. Something very common that happens in coffee shop AUs is potentially, like, if one of them's a barista, they end up remembering their order and they don't even have to order anymore, they just have their drink ready for them at the time when they always come in. That's always very cute. Coffee shop AU is also good if you've never really read an AU before, if you want to get into reading kind of AU fics where it's not in the canon situations. It's good because everyone kind of understands it on a basic level, that there's just a lot of coffee involved, but it's also seeing the characters out of their usual environment. So it's a good opportunity if you're starting to read AUs or if you want to try and get into reading AUs. And even if you've been reading fanfictions and reading AU fanfictions for ages and ages, a good coffee shop AU can just make you feel really good inside. Now, just because I've said it's cute doesn't mean there's no angst involved, okay? There's always angst involved, it's fanfiction. Because they're only seeing each other once a day, there's a lot of opportunities for miscommunication. That can make the fanfiction turn really angsty really quickly, and that can be a lot of fun if used in the right way. Like, obviously you don't want to get too angsty if it's just like been a fluffy fic the entire time, but sometimes you need a little bit of angst, and sometimes that angst is the character coming into a coffee shop and the barista going like, oh, you're here with someone else? You must be dating them. And then just kind of shutting down all attempts at flirting that they've been doing for the past 3 weeks. And then it gets a bit angsty, and that normally ends with them getting together. Spoiler, if you're reading a fluffy fic and you see it getting a bit angsty, that usually means they're about to get together, because they'll have the angst and the miscommunication, and then they'll be like, we didn't talk for 2 weeks and I can't live without you, and then they'll get together and everyone's happy. I think that is one of the reasons I love coffee shop AUs so much, just because they are like a bit fluffy and then they get a bit angsty and then they get fluffy again, and that's the right amount of angst for me, personally, unless I'm in a situation where I really want to read angst. Number 2, superhero AUs. Now, you might be thinking, superhero AUs, they're not for me, Claudia. I'm not a Marvel fan, I'm not a DC fan, I don't like superheroes. Trust me, just try one. Usually with superhero AUs, you either have both characters are heroes, one character's a hero, one's just like a normal person that they end up saving once and then kind of keep checking on because they have a crush on them type thing. Or, my favourite, you have one's a superhero and one's a supervillain. Enemies to lovers, okay? Enemies to lovers is one of my favourite tropes, and the superhero AU does it really well, especially when one's a superhero and one's a supervillain. Also, on top of that, fanfic authors are really good at giving the right superpowers to the right characters. For instance, if the character in canon is a doctor, they'll have healing powers in the AU, that kind of thing, and it can reflect really well on the character's personality, even though it's not canon. And if it's like an enemies to lovers, superhero, supervillain thing, you can have something that ends up being like, oh, the superhero is actually controlled by the government and the government's corrupt. That's always a bit of fun. Maybe I just like this because I like enemies to lovers, but also it's just really good, okay? Especially because if you have a superhero, usually there are other superheroes, and those can be the other characters from the canon. You know, you can bring in their friends and that kind of thing in a really cool way, and you can have 2 sides, and then there's people changing sides. It can be a lot of fun. Number 3, fame AU. Now, with a fame AU, you have 2 paths to take. Number 1, you can have singer/band AU. Number 2, you can have movie/TV star AU. With a singer or band AU, basically you have one of the characters as a singer or in a band and they're super famous, and the other character is either a fan or sometimes my favourites, don't even know who they are and then just run into them on the street and like end up having a bit of a crush on them, but then they don't know that they're super famous, and that always causes a bit of angst at the end when they find out, oh, you're actually mega famous. Great fun. Also, if it's a singer or band AU, oftentimes the fanfic authors will bring in real life songs and say, oh, this singer or this band has released a song in this universe, because they're not going to write a whole song for this fake band. But then you can get really good opportunities because you can have characters writing a song about their crush, but it's a real life song, so we all know the song, and that can be great fun because I feel like everyone at one point dreamed of having someone write a song about them. So it can be really cute and also really fun. Also, if it's a band AU, you could have two members of the same band having a crush on each other, which is great because that normally means it's a secret relationship, which is great for angst and miscommunication, and then maybe the other bandmates find out one day and they're kind of mad that they kept it a secret. Like, it's great, there's so many good opportunities. And then on the flip side, you have movie or TV star AUs, which is really, really fun because you can have so many opportunities for angst. You can have one character who's in a movie or a TV show, and their character on that movie or TV show has a love interest played by someone else. But in real life, well, fanfic real life, the person who has a crush on them is super jealous of the person playing the love interest. And you can have great opportunities for love triangles where two of them don't even know a love triangle is happening. And that can make really good angst and miscommunication, but it can also be just very, very funny. Like, you can have one character be like, I have a massive crush on this person, but I'm really jealous of the actor playing their love interest on their TV show. But the actor playing the love interest is like, yeah, I see them as a sibling. We have no romantic interest whatsoever. And just, they don't talk, so no one knows. It's great. Also, with like movie or TV stars, you can have two different actors coming together on the same movie or TV show and they're playing love interest, but they actually hate each other. Have a fun kind of enemies to lovers situation where it's also kind of a fake relationship trope because they have a relationship on screen, but that's just their characters and actually they're enemies and they hate each other. By the way, it's really hot in the UK right now and I have to close all the windows because otherwise you can hear the cars. So if I look a bit red or sweaty, I'm really sorry, but it's so hot. Number 4, fix it fics. I love a good fix it fic. If you don't know what a fix it fic is, basically that means the fanfic author is taking something that happened and saying, what if that didn't happen and everyone was happy instead? Some of these fanfics are like, okay, in the canon this person dies, so what if they just didn't die and were happy? And that's like basically every Marvel fic ever, because loads of people die in Marvel. That means you can also bring in opportunities for going back to kind of canon compliant, but with this extra character who's supposed to be dead. And you can be like, okay, this is what they do in that situation, which can be really, really fun. But it's not just characters that die, it can also be stuff that happens in a TV show or movie that you just don't want to happen. Completely random example, you could have a TV show where there's 3 seasons of slow burn between 2 characters. They finally get together, have loads of obstacles in their relationship, they get over all of them, get married, and then when one of the actors leaves the show, they decide to do a complete 180 on his character arc, he leaves, and then they end up getting divorced. I'm looking at you, Chicago PD. You know what you did. You know, that can always happen. But if that does happen to your favourite ship, by chance, then you can always find fics that just say, what if that didn't happen? What if, when he left the show and moved to another country, he texted his wife? What if? I mean, there's other characters on other TV shows that have had a similar thing happen to their character arc. Like I've mentioned before, Alex Karev on Grey's Anatomy. I'm still very mad about that. So if your favourite ship has died, either because one of the characters has, you know, actually died or because they're just not together anymore, you can usually find a fix-it fic where someone has said, what if they were still together? Or what if they didn't die? Because your favourite ship is most likely someone else's favourite ship. As long as it's not super obscure, you'll probably find someone else out there who also really likes that ship, and maybe that other person might be a fanfic author, and maybe they've written a fix-it fic where your favourite ship is still canon, and that can be really fun to read. But also, if you're fixing it because one of the characters has died, that also means there's great opportunities for angst, because usually instead of dying, they just get gravely injured and survive, which is great angst and brings me on very well to my next point. Number 5 of my top 5 favourite types of fanfiction, not in any order, is fanfics where someone gets injured. It's just so fun. Now, this can go 2 ways. Number 1, which I've just said, someone could get gravely injured, the other person's panicking, and you can have some deathbed love confessions if they're not already in an established relationship. Great fun, great angst, lots of crying, lots of fun. But also it could just be a minor injury, but they don't know that. You see, you can have a situation where one of the characters gets a call, you know, your significant other has been in a car crash. They're panicking, they race to the hospital, they've just got a broken arm. Great opportunities for angst. You think they're dead, they're not dead, they've just got a broken arm and they're fine. And then there's crying, and then there's making up, and there's so much fun. I love it so much. I love big dramatic love confessions, which is probably why I love this trope so much. I do sometimes search for fics specifically where someone gets hurt, but it can be a lot of fun even if it is a bit angsty. And that's my top 5 favourite types of fanfic. Obviously this is just my opinion, everyone has different opinions. You might hate something that I love, I might hate something you love. You know, everyone has their own opinion on this kind of thing. But maybe I've convinced you to try out something new that maybe you've never read before or always skipped over when you've seen it in your search results. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, please, and subscribe for more fanfiction-y stuff. Hopefully coming soon. I've been Claudia, and I will see you all soon. Bye!